Hello, this is Bruce Partle of the Socialist Action Organization, and this is segment 3 of a talk that has been in process of being given about the political economy of the United States, the political economy of, well, the global economy, past, present, and future. Originally, this series of lectures was designed to be 3 segments. We may have to go to 4. I'm not certain about that. We'll see how we do today. I'm just going to start off by citing a few statistics that I'd meant to cite at last time, but that our half an hour had run out, and we were determined to make each talk last no longer than half an hour and be a piece in itself. So during that time, I had given the effective tax rates of the top 1% in the United States of America. And we saw that it had collapsed from as high as 85.5% after the person in question had made their first $100,000, all the way to 20.9% in 2008. And that's talking about the effective tax rate. In other words, the tax rate that's taken in when you account for loopholes and all of the other shenanigans that these people pull off. Corporate taxes as a percentage of total revenue to the federal government. Let's take a look at this. In 1950, it's 26.5%. In 1977, it's already down to 17%. In 2002, under Bush, it's down to 7.5%. And today, it is below 7%. That's starting from 1950, when it was 26.5% of all federal revenue came from corporations. Okay, and now on for today's topic. As I mentioned before, there's been a declining rate of profit in companies of the real economy in the United States and the world. Last time we went over the fact that the profit rate, right, of all manufacturing and heavy industry in the United States was 20.8%. Okay, by 2005, it was 5%. What had led to this situation was overproduction, and we had gone over the dynamics of overproduction, that once Europe and other nations began to catch up with the United States after the devastation of World War II, we saw a situation in which they became increasingly competitive and even produced a lot of superior products to those to be found in the United States. As you know, this brought about a decline in profit rates, and this is what was the primary cause that led to financialization, which for the most part was speculative investment in what's known as the FIRE sector. The F is for finance, the I is for insurance, the RE is for real estate. And that's what you had. You had a real estate and finance boom in the United States, so that even if you look at the top 500 corporations in the United States, and you find that very few of them are large banks, 10 at the most, what we find is that by 2008, the total amount of corporate profits, 43% of it, up to 43% of it, went to banks and financial institutions, even though they occupied very few of the number of corporations in, say, the Fortune 500. Again, I cannot overestimate or underestimate the role of overproduction. We grew to a situation, and we're still in that situation, in which the combinations of low-wage labor in other countries and the very expensive technology for production in the rich imperialist countries creates a situation in which, even though there's no need for new machinery, that cycle of competition has really stopped. It's that the machinery is operating at much lower than its capacity. And as we had mentioned before, the lower you have capital operating at its actual capacity, it makes it all the much harder to pay back the bills for that heavy machinery, which are among the most expensive goods in the world. And we've mentioned that machinery, we've mentioned buildings, we've mentioned ships and planes. Those are all capital goods. Those are the goods that the capitalists buy, and they comprise 30% of the gross domestic product. We've gone over how financial investors went to less and less investment in in industries at home. Although we have seen there's no lack of capital going into industrial goods, what we have seen is the flight of that industrial capital to other nations and foreign workforces generating out real cheap goods, which are really not part of the gross domestic product in the United States. Giant investors are looking for industrial chances abroad. And the way global capitalism kind of works today is that where the expansion of industry is concerned, the big investors in the imperialist countries, they look to third world nations in which they can acquire cheap labor and then look towards the most educated segments of the populations of those countries to comprise a new middle class. And like your best example of this is China. So that, for example, China has what? Over 2 billion people now? I don't know if I'm altogether correct about that. I think so. I think it's over 2 billion. And they have created a well-off middle class. But this well-off middle class is in the neighborhood of 3 to 400 million at most. But that's perhaps more than the entire population of the United States. And you can certainly get economic concerns going pretty well when you have that many consumers. So that's part of the trick. As far as other investment goes, though, again, finance was the way to go. And this was something that was written about by Karl Marx in Volume 3 of his classic Capital. He saw that profit rates in real manufacturing and heavy industry would be going down as a result of global competition. Marx was very aware of the coming global economy, and he said that there would be a momentous switch of a lot of capital being invested in what he called fictitious capital. In other words, financial instruments that actually don't produce anything at all. And he saw that very quickly. What we're running on today really is a debt economy. And what do I mean about that? Well, to begin with, let's take consumers in the United States. They really, on the whole, live in the red. It's possible to live in the red, you know. You can always pay your credit card bills a little bit slower, and you can negotiate with credit card bills about at what rate you are going to make a payment. And we went over dramatic statistics, didn't we, in which in 2007, the average net worth of an American household was in the neighborhood of $193,000, and how that may have collapsed to as little as $86,000, according to a recent poll by the Washington Post. And we will be continuing in a few moments with actually our segment of today, which is about the future and other aspects of the economy.